stage removal. First stage removal. Street prohibited to non-permits in 1 hour. Street prohibited to non-permits in 1 hour.
In 1966, author Harry Harrison took on the threat of overpopulation and diminishing resources with Make Room, Make Room. The welfare ration cards took care of everything, everything that kept you alive, and just alive enough to hate it.
At the time I wrote it, through scientific journals, I was very well aware that we had a population problem. In fact, I was living in Mexico. I went back to Mexico a few years later, and they doubled the population. And that's the idea for a science fiction book right there. How can I bring this particular problem to people? I'm a science fiction writer. All my interests are in science fiction as a writer. I cast it in New York, year 2000. We'll be alive. Those are lucky of us. Put our seatbelts on. And we'll show this view of the future, this very negative view. As science fiction does that. You don't want to write a utopian novel, just people playing harps. Much as I love the harp, you don't want to read about it. But dystopian novel, how rotten the world's going to be, that's what we want to see.
So that sells books.
All that sells books. And keeps the reader interested, moves the plot along. You have to entertain your reader. If you don't entertain your reader, forget it.
Make Room was made into the film Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston, just 7 years later. The titular Soylent Green was a new element added to the story, which was heralded as the solution to the lack of food for the growing population. This edition provided one of the great endings in dystopian cinematic history.
You gotta tell him. You gotta tell him.
Promise, Tiger, I promise. I'll tell the exchange.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell him. Silent Green is people. We gotta stop him somehow.
Not long after Make Room, another popular novel was released which dealt with the future society's handling of an ever-growing population, Logan's Run. Co-written by William Nolan and George Clayton Johnson, in the world of Logan's Run, hedonism abounds, but nobody is allowed to reach anywhere near old age. Runners are those who try to escape the system.
One for one. What everyone's been taught to believe. One for one.
Well, why not? That's exactly how everything works. Keeps everything in balance. One is terminated, one is born. Simple, logical, perfect. You have a better system?
Of course not. At least I wonder about it sometimes. Not like you with your automatic one-for-one routine. You sound like a sleep teacher with a stuck tape.
Logan, leave it alone. It's perfect. You know, Logan, you wonder a lot. Too much for a sane man.
But why were you so angry just then? What did he do to you?
That rat's gonna run. I can always tell.
In the second half of the 20th century, it was Philip K. Dick who picked up H.G. Wells' mantle of the most prolific dystopian writer. One of his most famous additions to the genre would be Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is set in San Francisco after a nuclear war has killed off almost all animal species. Philip K. Dick's dystopia is now populated by both synthetic animals and even synthetic people, known as replicants. The novel would famously be adapted by Ridley Scott in 1982's Blade Runner.
Do you like our owl?
It's artificial?
Of course it is.
Must be expensive.
Very. I'm Rachel.
Deckard.
It seems you feel our work is not a benefit to the public.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
Philip K. Dick would continue in the dystopian genre throughout the 1970s, with A Scanner Darkly and Flow My Tears, the policeman said. Earlier in his career, he'd had great success with The Man in the High Castle, which was an alternate history dystopia where the Axis powers had been victorious in World War II and had taken over most of the world. And that theme of violent militaristic takeovers would make a return in the 1980s. The graphic novelist Alan Moore would publish V for Vendetta in 1982, where the UK has become an autocratic police state, and the eponymous V, who dons a Guy Fawkes mask, leads a revolution.
More than 400 years ago, a great citizen wished to embed the 5th of November forever in our memory. His hope was to remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives. So if you've seen nothing, if the crimes of this government remain unknown to you, then I would suggest that you allow the 5th of November to pass unmarked. But if you see what I see, if you feel as I feel, and if you would seek as I seek, then I ask you to stand beside me 1 year from tonight, outside the gates of Parliament, and together we shall give them a 5th of November that shall never, ever be forgotten.
Just as George Orwell's 1984 gave the English language a whole new set of terms that are still regularly used today, V for Vendetta would spawn real-life imitators all across the globe.
We put on this mask because under this mask is an idea or a concept, but not anyone. All of us share this idea. We fight for our freedom. We want to pursue our freedom, and we want to have our 5 demands that these few months the government do not respond to us.
Another author who devised her own dystopian world where a brutal totalitarian regime has seized power was Margaret Atwood, with her 1985 novel The Handmaid's Tale. The eponymous handmaids are forced to bear children for the wives of the ruling elite in a time of extreme infertility. The film adaptation, which featured a screenplay by Harold Pinter, would come just 5 years later and brought to life this strange colour-coded hierarchy that Atwood had created in her novel.
Thank you.
She must be a very happy girl. Praise be.
The Handmaid's Tale has achieved much more success with a recent major TV adaptation where the complicated social structure of Atwood's novel is explored in great detail. But while Atwood had a world where fertility had plummeted, author P.D. James went even further, and in her dystopian future, The Children of Men, not a single child has been born anywhere on the globe for years.
The world was stunned today by the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet. Baby Diego was stabbed outside a bar in Buenos Aires after refusing to sign an autograph.
Witnesses at the scene say that Diego spat in the face of a fan who asked for an autograph. He was killed in the ensuing brawl. The fan was later beaten to death by the angry crowd. Born in 2009, the son of Marcelo and Silvia Ricardo, a working-class couple from Mendoza, he struggled all his life with the celebrity status thrust upon him as the world's youngest person.
Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet, was 18 years, 4 months, 20 days, 16 hours, and 8 minutes old.
P.D. James was one of the most successful crime writers ever, but unlike many authors before her who were known for one particular genre, James would receive plaudits when she delved into the world of dystopia. The film adaptation by director Alfonso Cuarón would also become one of the most critically lauded cinematic dystopias of all.